120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
'My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
My friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. This morning, talk with me, your host, J. Stan McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, in the house, Studio 1A, we've got talk champion Jonathan Small. Good morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Hey.
You doing good?
You're doing good. It's a pleasure to be back here again.
All right, bring that mic down closer to you.
Okay.
There you go.
A little bit better.
Now you're present.
All right.
Now you're present. I can hear you.
The first day of spring, technically.
Today's the first day of spring?
Mm-hmm. Oh, this morning? Yeah,
this
today
morning?
is the first day of spring.
Spring got here, I didn't even know it.
Yeah, March 20th, technically.
Wow. Spring is here.
Now, some people will say March 1st is the unofficial first day. Like every first, like September is the unofficial autumn, June 1st is the unofficial summer, December the 1st is the unofficial winter, but technically it's March the 20th this morning or today. So it all depends how you look at it. I don't know, but technically today is the first day of spring.
And, well, if anyone would know that would know that it would be you.
Be me. Well, I guess
It's
so.
like you know almost everything.
I hope so. I try my best. I put the effort to try to know different things as a researcher, but I don't know everything. No, and I got to be realistic about that. But I try to know a lot of different things.
Yes, you are a researcher, Jonathan. I think that's the best. Yeah, yeah. You do good research too.
I try my best on that level of research. And then whenever I can't research, I just make a request to see if I can find somebody that does know what I'm looking for.
Someone always knows what's going on.
Right. Someone always knows something.
Someone always knows something. All right. Weekend was good?
Weekend was good. I mean, yesterday was a little nippy, but it was good otherwise. I was still outside. I just love to be outside. And watched a little college basketball Saturday. My Duke Blue Devils lost. But it was a good game. There was some good basketball games on for over the weekend. Getting close to March. Well, this is March Madness. So getting ready for the Sweet 16. I believe the UConn men's basketball team, they did advance, and the women's basketball team.
Yeah, from what I understand, they're going to Las Vegas.
Okay.
At least that's what the paper said.
Well, that would have to be the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So you never worry too much about the women's side, although they might be challenged this year. I think South Carolina is the best team. They rank number 1 for the women's college basketball. The UConn men is kind of up and down. They'll have some great stretches, and they may have some lower stretches, but they seem like they're back in the hunt. So you never know. It could be both teams in the championship, representing the state of Connecticut.
Well, it'd be great for both teams to bring home the gold, bring home the championship.
I wonder if I think that might have happened once. I'm not sure what
I
year.
vaguely remember both UConn men and women being the top teams
Right.
at the same time in the country. They both won. I don't remember when, but I kind of remember that. In my mind, I see pictures of one of the two teams on the side of the G. Fox building for some reason.
Oh.
I don't know if that happened, but
Well, the women's won so many NCAA tournaments, it's bound to happen. At one stretch, they was winning every other year. They kind of follow a tradition. I think Tennessee, as far as the women's side, put college basketball, Pat Summit. I don't know if you remember Pat Summit, but she was the basketball coach for Tennessee University. She passed away, but she really kind of put college basketball, as far as, women's basketball, on the spotlight. And UConn just took it to a different level. But right now, it's South Carolina is one of the best college basketball teams, and some other college basketball teams. But just keep an eye, as we're getting closer to the Final
we get
Four.
closer, we'll see. One of our crack online researcher historian, Bill Costin, said twice.
Twice, he
Twice.
did.
So it's happened twice. I think this is just Stan, not necessarily the truth or the way things should be, but I think that on the side of the G. Fox building, there should be a mural of Gino,
Gino,
the former men's basketball coach,
Jim Calhoun.
Jim Calhoun,
Oh, definitely.
and all of the key players throughout the years. Big mural, home of the Huskies.
Well, see, that might even get into another question I would probably want to ask you when we have the open format about regionalism.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because they play in Stores, Connecticut, not Hartford.
Well, that's true, but Connecticut is the home of the Huskies, and we're the home of Connecticut because we're the capital city.
Okay.
Makes us the greatest city on earth.
Well, I would like to talk about regionalism. I mean,
We'll talk
kinda
about that.
ties
We'll
into-
talk about that
okay.
after our special guest.
Right.
It is Monday, which means we always have a special guest from somewhere around the world, and actually sometimes locally. But our guests are always world-class guests because they have knowledge about stuff that affects people all over the world. And today is no different. I always give the guest introduction to Jonathan because he's the one that gets them. But this is going to be a good subject today because we'll talk about something that everybody needs. Can't live without. Jonathan.
Well, this morning on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show, we have a returning guest to the AccessTV.org network who I had the privilege of interviewing on Face to Face in the 2010s. First time being a guest on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show. I believe the guest has a background in engineering. He has expertise in infrastructure development and kind of classifies as his top leader in running a major utility, water, and sewage agency. Basically, the guest this morning on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show is no other than the CEO of the Metropolitan District Commission, headquartered in the capital city, Hartford, Connecticut, no other than Scott Jellison. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, Jonathan and Stan. Thank you very much for having me back.
Okay, it's our pleasure. Scott, before we get into our topics of discussion, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly?
Sure. Well, I'm a graduate and licensed professional engineer, and all of my career I spent designing and constructing buildings and infrastructure. I had the privilege of working on the GFOX project. That was my project, and it was a great project to really create a college downtown Hartford, which really was it's really a staple to redevelopment in terms of redeveloping cities. And like Providence, like other cities, you need some form of a college, and now UConn. So it was the first step. I've also was lucky enough to be involved in as a project director for Adrian's Landing. So the convention center and all the things associated with that was a great experience, and I just proud to be a part of it.
Well, Scott, now you're currently the CEO of the Metropolitan District Commission, basically, which is a water, sewage, and utility operation. But exactly for people who are unfamiliar about the Metropolitan District Commission, would the Metropolitan District Commission fall under the category of a water and sewage agency or a water, sewage, utility agency?
Yeah, so our official title, we were created by the legislature in 1929, very similar to our sister agency in New Haven, Regional Water Authority. So we're identical. We're created by the legislature, and we have been serving the region. We have 8-member towns. We've been serving the region with water and sewer services, not just on an operational level, but obviously we're spending right now about $120 million a year in improving our infrastructure, both water and sewer. And so we are a construction company. We are a utility company. We are an operational company for both water and sewer. And there's a lot of things that go into that, maintaining, 35,000 acres of land across the state for watershed to make sure our water is the best, highest quality in the country. Maintaining 1,500 miles of water mains, maintaining 1,300 miles of sewer pipes in the street. So it's a very lots go into just suggesting that we're a utility company. There's a lot of things that we have to maintain and take care of.
Well, for people out there, it's very important that they know the type of water that they're drinking and consuming and the type of sewage operation that is operating through their homes and through their businesses. Is there some type of ranking, like a 5-star or A ranking or whatever ranking classification would you say MDC falls under? If you was to give MDC or the Metropolitan District Commission a ranking, would it be like a top-notch ranking? I mean, what type of grade ranking would MDC or the Metropolitan District Commission fall under?
Sure. Well, there's no such ranking, but I guess the proof's in the pudding, right? So the MDC in New England EPA is divided into 10 regions, and Region 1 is Boston, and Region 1 oversees all of New England. And so I would say that as it relates to the sewer utility, the MDC has spent $1.6 billion to date in improving our infrastructure as it relates to the Clean Water Project mandate by EPA in the state of Connecticut. The only city that has come even close to what we have done in New England is Boston. And Boston spent $500 million on their consent order. We have spent $1.6 billion. So with $1.6 billion, we had a 0% increase in our ad valorem sewer tax on towns for our 8-member towns last year, and less than 2% the year before. And so the proof is in the pudding, right? Yes, we do have a clean water surcharge, which adds to the cost on the water bill for our customers. But if you look at a utility right next door in South Windsor or in Farmington, our water rate this year was less than $4. The water rates in South Windsor in Farmington is almost double that. So even with our clean water surcharge, we spent $1.6 million in improving our infrastructure where no one else has in the state of Connecticut. New Haven hasn't, Bridgeport hasn't. So we're actually, our water rate with the Clean Water Project is lower than most communities than their water rate, right? So that says a lot. And it's been, we had 700 employees in 2006. We now have less than 500, 483 employees. We've done a lot to reduce the cost to our customers and by being more efficient. And we didn't just cut employees like the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut gave a mandate to their employees to say, if you don't retire by July of 2022, your pension will change. Well, we didn't do that. We worked with the union starting in 2015 and developed multitasking job descriptions. So we took 700 employees and we were able to reduce those number of employees down to 483 because we were now having people do multitasking job descriptions rather than having one person do this and one person do that. And that efficiency is what allows us to continue to spend $120 million a year in construction activity while producing water lower than anyone else in the state. So that's the report card that, it's difficult. We're probably, it's a difficult message to get out there. Being in the capital city, we the MDC get more exposure than any other utilities probably. But we are the lowest and the cheapest, and not because we're not spending money. As you know, spending $40 million a year in debt service. So we're borrowing at $40 million a year. That costs our towns about $2 million on their ad valorem. So if we're spending 120 times 3, right, that's $6 million a year. We are spending money, and we are the lowest rate structure in the state.
Well, Scott, you had mentioned about reducing the workforce, and I do remember you mentioning that when you were a guest on Face to Face, and the multitask operation that you say MDC currently exists towards, meaning that you could have one employee doing the function or the job functions of two or three, or at least two different functions. Is that kind of what you're saying when you're indicating that the workforce was reduced from in the 700s to under 500? It's because you're able to multitask and have the employee doing two different job functions?
Yes, and I'll give you an example, Jonathan. One example is our entry level job is we used to call it a pipe joiner, and that was the person that was in the street in the middle of the night, lowest man or woman on the totem pole, and that person was in the street digging that hole as a laborer. So that was the entry level job. We also had an entry level job, which was a gate maintainer. So if you had to control 30,000 gates, water gates in the ground, open them up, close them as part of a fire, as part of a break, water main break, that was another one. Hydrant maintainer, flushing the hydrants is very important for water quality. You've got to also make sure that those hydrants are operational so that the fire departments in towns have access to that water for fire protection. Sewer maintainer, and so on. So meter maintainer. So, take 5 of those jobs, and what would typically happen prior to 2015, we would have a water main break. A crew would be called out to go fix it. Typically, when you have a water main break, either the sewer collapses underneath it, or the sewer collapsed and caused the water main. But either way, you now need to shut the water down and you need to repair the sewer. So what would happen? We'd call out a separate crew, gate maintainers. They would come out, shut the water main down. Then we would call a sewer crew out. The sewer crew would do their thing, clean the sewer. So we had all these different departments, all these different groups that had to do their specific task. Now we have one crew. They all are utility maintainers. They all have that multitasking job description, and that group can do all of it. Now, depending on how large of the water main break or sewer collapse is, we may need more additional people, but it's not like only you can touch the hydrant, only you can touch the gate. Anyone at that job site can now multitask. So we don't work with less people unsafely. That's not our goal. Our goal is to be as safe as possible. We want to make sure our employees go home to their families at night. But it's a way to manage costs by simply not having to call in people to do a specific task when the people that are there are more than qualified to do it.
Now, when you just said managing costs, MDC is not like a private water and sewer operation like Aquarion Water Company. You're kind of you fall into a different category. So you're not in business to make a profit. So even though you are able to cut costs and do things less cheaper and just as efficient, you're still not a private business where you're trying to generate a profit. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the water utilities and so ourselves, MDC, Regional Water Authority. Regional Water Authority also has a second arm. It's a sewer authority, and they're 2 separate organizations. In Hartford, we're just one. So both of these groups, MDC and New Haven, we are created by the state of Connecticut. We're a nonprofit, and our goal is to simply provide services. And we do not make a profit. Whatever profits we make reduce our overall costs, and therefore the costs to the towns are reduced. There are private water utilities that are regulated by the state through PURA, which is Connecticut Water and Aquarion, as you mentioned. And if you look at those utilities, ironically, they're regulated by PURA, but yet their water rates are double ours. So yes, they're out there to make a profit. That's their model. That's what they're there for, which is fine. But there's been a lot of discussion over the years about, well, we should regulate the MDC. Well, if just take practical issues at hand, if we were regulated by PURA and we were a profit organization like Connecticut Water, and I'm sorry, I got a phone call. Like Connecticut Water and in Aquarion, we would double our water rate. So that doesn't make any sense, right? So our job is to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep the rates low for not just on the sewer side, it's for the towns, because we tax the towns for the sewer service, and therefore the towns tax the residents and the taxpayers through their local tax bills. But on the water side, the water is paid for directly by the customer through a bill that the MDC issues.
Now, Scott, you mentioned some comparisons of MDC towards other water and sewer utility operations in Connecticut, and you claim that the rates that you charge are a lot less than the other companies, whether it's Aquarion or New Haven Regional Water Authority. But of late, there's been a lot of criticism directed towards the Metropolitan District Commission on how the agency is handling the flooding issues in some of the homes in certain parts of the capital city of Hartford, and some of the sewage issues that some of the homeowners and business owners are dealing with. And recently I had the chairman of Metropolitan District Commission, William DeBella, on as an in-studio guest, and he kind of was not accepting any responsibilities for the issues that the homeowners and the business owners are claiming that MDC should be responsible for fixing. What is causing the friction and the problems of the miscommunication between the homeowners and the business owners here in certain parts of Hartford, that MDC is to blame and they're not living up to their part of the responsibilities? Could you kind of clarify some of these issues that's currently taking place?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot there, but I'll try. So, there's been some recent incidences where I don't disagree that MDC has a responsibility. MDC has a responsibility to its residents to provide them with water and sewer service. On the sewer side, presently the sewer lateral that goes from the home to the sewer system in the street is the responsibility of the homeowner. That's by our ordinances. And that's presently, and we're going to be proposing to change that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But presently that lateral, in most cases, it's a clay tile that is basically has joints, and it's allowed to have roots grow through the joints, which typically clog the pipe, and you have blockages, and then you have backups in your homes. That is the responsibility of the homeowner. There is other circumstances that creates backups, like a collapse in the street. That is MDC's responsibility. And we're also responsible to make sure that our pipes in the street are of good repair, and make sure that we're trying to keep the stormwater that's leaking into the pipe in the street or on in the right of way, we call it, up to the sidewalk. Make sure that those pipes are the water that's leaking into those old pipes are taking up capacity of the sewer system, right? So the pipe is only so big, and it can only handle so much sewer. This problem is not the sewer. The only time we ever have this conversation is when it rains. So the MDC, as we've said, is we're not a rain company, right? We're not a stormwater company. We're a sewer company that also has a combined pipe in the street that is designed to take the private property stormwater from your home, like your gutters, and from your basement, and dump it into the sewer system. And that's our responsibility. But whatever can't get into the pipe, whatever physically can't get into the pipe, and it creates street flooding, or it creates flooding in people's backyards, that's not the MDC's responsibility. And so that's where the confusion comes in as to why are we having all this street flooding? And let's use an example, actual example. On August 19th, 2021, Albany Avenue had 2 to 3 feet of water in the street. That water could not get into our sewer system for a couple of reasons. I've said, I've been very public about this. The responsibility of the city of Hartford is to clean the streets. If anyone is aware of that time frame, and I made a very pointed presentation on a number of occasions, that the garbage in the streets were clogging the catch basins. Leaves were clogging the catch basins. The water cannot get into the sewer system. However, that's important, and that has to happen, and that's a city responsibility, and we all can agree to that. But that storm on August 19th was a 200-year storm. We received 7 inches of rain in less than 8 hours. We had another storm less than 5 days later. There is no system that's large enough to handle that. So I was physically out there talking to residents, talking to people with claims, and every person that I talked to, even videos that were provided to us, show water literally pouring in people's front doors. The sewer system can't handle that. There's nothing that the MDC can do about that. But what we can do is make sure that the sewer system that is connected to your home, that through a number of programs, including the backwater valve program, we can make sure that our job, and our job that we're mandated to comply with EPA and the state of Connecticut, is they say to us, you cannot allow the sewer system, the sewer in the pipe that the MDC owns, you cannot allow it to leave the pipe. So you can't allow it to go into a home. That's our responsibility. The way we protect you from that is a backwater valve. We cannot allow it to leave the manhole in the street up to a 1-year storm. Now that's a real simple, call it a 1-year storm. That's like having an inch of rain in over a 5-hour, 8-hour period. 7 inches of rain in a 8-hour period is a 200-year storm. So those are the differences between what our responsibilities are. But the Clean Water Project, probably what the chairman was referring to, the Clean Water Project, the mandates that we're required to spend all of this money, $120 million a year, that mandate is very specific. It tells us we must eliminate sewer overflows to the Wethersfield Cove. There's 5 overflows on Franklin Avenue that go directly to the Wethersfield Cove. There's 4 overflows that go to the North Branch of the Park River. And then there's a total of 86 of these overflows that go to some place. It could be the Park River Conduit. It could be the Wethersfield Cove. It could be the Connecticut River. But all of those Elliott drains, but all of those overflows, those are just required to comply with a 1-year level of control. All of this money that we're spending is to do that specific task. Now, in 2008 through 2013, the regulators were very clear. We want it done fast. We want it done quick. The only way to do that quickly, we started doing separation in Franklin Avenue, and we started doing separation in the northern part of the city, up on Albany Avenue and other parts of Upper Albany. But the regulators said it's going to take too long. So we agreed to build a tunnel. Now the tunnel is designed to simply pick up these overflows. The problem with the tunnel is that if you do separation like we did on Franklin and Albany and other parts of Cleveland, Tower, the community gets brand new infrastructure. They get new sewer pipes. They get new storm pipes. They get, in most cases, a new water system because we're not going to rip up the road and we're not going to replace that water main when we're already there. In most cases, the entire road gets paved. In most cases, new sidewalks. In most cases, new fences. So there's a lot of benefit to separation versus building big tunnels. In the last go-around with DEEP in what we call our integrated plan, the Clean Water Project, we try to convince them to get away from the tunnel concept. That tunneling, although it's quicker, it doesn't provide the benefit to the community So yes, we pick up the overflows. Right, it's like having an overflow in your bathtub. Everyone has an overflow in your bathtub, and just think about it. If the tub gets really high and it hits that overflow, that water goes somewhere. Well, that water is the water that we're talking about. It's going to the river, and the EPA and the state say you can't discharge that water to that river, so you have to build a big tunnel to collect it. But if the water goes fast enough, the water overflows the tub and it goes onto your bathroom floor. Well, DEEP and EPA don't care about that. They only care about the river. And so our argument has been, and always has been, that solves the regulatory requirement, but it doesn't solve the community requirement. So we have approved right now to start working up in the northern part of the city and eventually downtown. We had the concept of a tunnel, 2 more tunnels. Fought since from 2015 to literally 3 years later, just finished 2022. They just approved the integrated plan in September of 2022. We have agreed to not build a tunnel to the north, and that we will do separation work like we did on Franklin, like we did on Cleveland, like we did on Tower. And we will use separation to actually achieve the same goal. And what happens is it's all about the stormwater. If we get the stormwater out of the existing sewer pipe, then we don't have the problems that are created from backups. But if you have a tunnel and you just collect the overflow, there's some point where the water physically can't get to the tunnel because it's just backing up into the closest home, the closest sidewalk overflow from a catch basin, the closest basement toilet. It just physically can't get there. Separation is the solution. The EPA and DEEP have agreed with us, and we are now preparing to start to work in the northern part of the city, Granby, Blue Hills area. Unfortunately, there's a lot of design work that has to occur, and we were just authorized by DEEP to proceed with this in September of this past September. So we're working diligently with the community. We are working diligently with the NRZs to communicate this plan with them. We just had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, and we're planning to have more meetings. But there's one good thing about all of this that has happened with the issues that Ms. Bridget Prince has raised. The one good thing is the regulators have realized that it shouldn't be just about the river. It should be about the community. And the MDC has been diligently fighting this for really since 2004, when we started this discussion with the regulators.
Well, Scott,
but separation is the solution. And I've even proposed, I've had a number of meetings with EPA and with DEEP over the last couple of months, and they are very supportive, and they are willing to consider that we're going to propose in the next week a number of issues that we can do to help the community today. For example,
well, excuse me, Scott. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I do want to give this to Stan to have him ask some questions. I know he may have some questions, and we don't want to spend too long just on one question, if you don't mind, because there's other questions that we like to ask.
I'm sorry I get talking. I'm sorry,
okay.
Jonathan,
All right. You up on the break, Stan?
Well, yeah, I was actually getting into it.
Oh, okay. But I'm pretty sure you have something that you want to ask Scott. I don't want.
Well, he's actually answering a lot of the questions, and I think part of the problem, and I've said this for years, is it's a culture of the industry, not just water, but sewer. Large entities have a hard time communicating issues to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And where there is no answers, people make assumptions, and those assumptions generally are wrong. But these kinds of conversations are lengthy, and they're technical, and it's hard for some people to get their heads around them. But it's needful. So we'll continue after the break, and we'll uncover some more.
Okay.
Because my quick takeaway is, when you have outside agencies and authorities telling other agencies how to do what they know how to do, and suggest to them that their way as an authority is better than the way of those who are experts, then you start on the process, but you spend a lot of time, a lot of money in the process, and find out, well, maybe we should do it a different way. It's not like just stopping your car and going the other way. There's a whole lot of time, energy, effort, drawings, engineering, design, this, that, and third goes into something. Then when you shift gears midway, it's like time lost. And so I hear a lot of why things are the way they are, but how you articulate that and get it to a place where large communities understand is a very, very big challenge. But we'll continue. Stick and stay.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Little Jay Hogard, and we'll continue Morning Talk.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It's time to clear the air and vote for a mayor that is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. McCauley, and I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023, in the Democratic Party primary election for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience and vote for the name you trust and know. Vote J. Stan McCauley for mayor.
Hi,
My name's J. Stan McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and
Well,
you're
you're
watching
watching
accesstv.org.
Oh, yeah. We're back. Morning Talk. The champions of talk. Jonathan Small, Dr. Maya Bowen, Cacique, and Cleo Duke Wright. Join us every week. Of course, every Monday it's Jonathan Small with important guests from around the world. So let's continue our conversation.
Well, good morning again to people out there on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show. We're going to return back to our segment with our special guest this morning, CEO of the Metropolitan District Commission, Scott Jellison. Well, Scott, I mean, obviously there's a lot of clarification, and you definitely was doing your best to clarify the situation of some of the criticisms that your residents have in Hartford towards how MDC is handling the sewage issues of basements and businesses and flooding issues. But you mentioned some other important pieces of the puzzle, if you want to put it in those terms. You mentioned the city of Hartford has some responsibilities. You mentioned DEEP has some responsibilities, or they have some authority. What exactly should the city of Hartford be doing that, let's say, MDC is being criticized to do in this particular situation with some of the flooding and sewage issues that's taking place in Hartford?
Well, thank you. And it's not criticism. It's just factual, right? So we're just talking about facts here. So the city of Hartford owns the city streets, right? The city of Hartford owns whether there's sand on the street, whether there's garbage on the street, whether there's leaves on the street. That's not MDC's responsibility. So whatever is clogging the catch basins in a storm, as you can imagine, when you build a road, you pitch the road so that it goes to the catch basin, right? So the water brings whatever is on the road directly to the catch basin. So in the August storm of 2021, and others before that, it was very obvious that the water was ponds up on the road and builds up on the road and can't get into the sewer system. So that's the responsibility of the city of Hartford. Now, that is a 200-year storm, so no one could have solved that problem, but having the streets clean and having the catch basin clean would have obviously made it better. How much better, I don't know. But we all have a job to do, and I will take all the criticism for the MDC for not doing my job, but I'm not going to take the responsibility for somebody else's job, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what can happen. The state of Connecticut, DOT, owns Albany Avenue. Now, in 2013, probably, Jonathan, when you and I talked last, I was the chief operating officer. I was not the CEO. But I had numerous conversations with the state of Connecticut DOT, with the city of Hartford, about the Clean Water Project and what we had to do on Albany Avenue. And we came to an impasse. The MDC, again, is responsible to do specific things, and we can't use our money to do stormwater-related items. It has to be related to CSOs. It has to be related to stormwater in our pipe causes an overflow, and therefore we have the right to spend money on that. But if the water doesn't get into our pipe for whatever reason, it's not regulated. It's not part of our mandate. So when Albany Avenue floods, and always floods, it's for a lot of engineering reasons. One is that there's not enough catch basins. There's only 50 catch basins. There needs to. DOT owns that road. DOT and or the city of Hartford have a responsibility for stormwater management on that road. In 2013, starting in 2008, I said to the city of Hartford and to the DOT that MDC is going to be doing our Clean Water Project, and we would be willing to execute a stormwater component for the city and the DOT if they were willing to pay their share of it. We can't pay for it. And we offered that in 2013, and they declined. Fast forward to 2018, the state of Connecticut and the city are going to be doing a streetscape. The streetscape on Albany Avenue. the chairman and I met with business leaders on Albany Avenue, and we told them point blank, the city of Hartford and or the DOT, as part of the streetscape, should replace all the sewer and water laterals going into the businesses before they pave and do all of that work. It's not, we can't spend that money. That NDC cannot do that. It's not, that money that our towns pay us for is not meant for private property. So again, DOT and the city declined to do that. And again, MDC got blamed for it. But it's very clear what we own and what we don't own. Probably the biggest problem that we have is MDC's not vocal enough to really, we're not here to beat up our towns. We're not here to beat up our regulators. We're just trying to do our job. But those are the facts around a perfect specific example of Albany Avenue. And as you know, there's lots of flooding in Albany Avenue. We have very little. We only had 3 phone calls from Albany Avenue, despite all of the rhetoric. We only had 3 phone calls during the August 19th, 2021 storm for surcharging in basements. The majority of the water that came into businesses came in through the front door or the back door. So those are facts. It doesn't mean the MDC doesn't want to be a part of a solution, but we need partners. And people sitting back saying, that's not our job, that's not our responsibility. There's not much we can do about that. We're willing to help. Now, as I started to say before the break, the new DEEP staff, and I mean this sincerely, DEEP and EPA, have been outstanding. There's been a lot of people retire at the state who we were dealing with really since 2004. And the new generation of regulators have been listening to us. They agree with us. They want to do something positive for the community too. And they have already discussed the concept of, MDC, tell us what you think we could do that would be beneficial to the community, not just the river. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, solve both the regulatory problem and solve the community problem. We can't solve the community problem alone. We need support from the city of Hartford and the state of Connecticut. However, they are listening. The DEEP staff and the EPA staff are listening to us. And we are going to be proposing, we don't want to build another tunnel in Hartford. Tunnels are a dinosaur. Tunnels are a very quick regulatory solution, solves a regulatory problem of overflows to a river, but it doesn't solve a community problem. So we are going to be proposing to do a number of short-term things. One, obviously, our backwater valve is important. Get a backwater valve in every home that wants us to put one in. We also have to do the design of the work that we need to do on Blue Hills and Granby. Blue Hills and Granby. But in the areas like Gully Brook, in the areas of North Main Street, there's projects that we could do with the support and cutting bureaucratic tape with DEEP and EPA that we're going to propose to do sooner. The priority was in the integrated plan was to do Blue Hills and Granby first because of the North Branch of the Park River. But we're going to propose to branch out and do other projects that we can design quickly, use our emergency contractors that DEEP would have to approve, and they've been very supportive of this, and get work starting this coming summer. Doing separation work where typically what we do is we separate the sewer in the street and we put 2 pipes in the ground. So one's a sewer, one's a storm pipe. But then we also have to bring new storm and sewer laterals to the home and go into the home and disconnect everything. So like we did on Franklin Avenue, and we did this in Albany, is we're proposing to build smaller packages for private property work that we would use minority contractors to do that work. And that we're very supportive of that. So one contractor would do all the separation in the street, probably a bigger contractor, and then smaller contractors, local small minority contractors would do the work on private property. Deep has also offered that they have $2.5 million in grant for private property work, which we're going to be going after, and they're very supportive of giving it to the NDC. Oops, sorry. So we are proposing to start. Our board is very supportive, including our chairman, very supportive of passing a new ordinance that says right now we are not allowed to touch a private property sewer lateral on your property. It's private property. We can't use our money for that. We are going to propose that in April to our Public Works Department, Public Works Bureau, and our full board, May, that we would propose that if a sewer lateral needs to be replaced, the MDC will replace it for free. We will propose that if there's a clog in your lateral from a tree root on your private property, MDC will clear that for free. We are also going to add every time we line a sewer main in the street. So, for example, there's two options. You can rip up an old pipe and put a new pipe in the ground, and we typically bring it right up to the sidewalk, and then we connect to the lateral going to the home. Or you can line it, and basically you're putting a new pipe within an old pipe. And when we line, we do the same thing. We just line it right up to the property line because, again, we can't use our monies for private property work. We have
excuse me, Scott. Scott,
yes.
I do have some more questions I do want to ask,
sure.
And I don't want to get tied into just one particular question. Stan, do you have anything that you wanted to ask Scott Jellison before I ask my question?
I don't necessarily have anything I want to ask. I think he's stating the case, and I think doing a well job. There was one question that one of the viewers had. Please ask if separation without increasing capacity will solve the problem. I actually think he answered that question in the question, but I'll ask.
Yeah, if I and this is really simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody ever have a problem with their sewer system when it's not raining?
No.
No.
There's no problem.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
So here's what happened in 1974. These regulators across the country, EPA, said you need to do something because your sewer system. Two issues. One is you're discharging raw sewage to the rivers. We all agree that that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a treatment plant issue, right? That's you got to build treatment plants that can handle that, and you're not discharging raw sewer. But that morphed into now these overflows during rainstorms. They've got to be collected too and treated, or at least collected. But you can't discharge them to a water body. So the answer is, it took the regulators 40 some odd years to realize the overflows are occurring because it's raining. So let's solve the problem really quickly. Quickly means a long time, right? We're not talking about a year, 2 years, 5 years. But let's solve the problem. Let's spend the money that we have and do the right thing. Get the stormwater out of the sewer. Now that means you got to build bigger storm systems and collect the storm right off the property, and don't mix the sewer. Right now, we're mixing the sewer and the storm from the property, from the street, and then we're trying to deal with it. Let's get the storm out of the sewer pipe right now, before it even mixes. So we're proposing that we never go back to a tunnel type system. Well, we were proposing a tunnel system in the north. We convinced the Deep not to do that. It took us 3 years, from 2018 to 2022. It was a long, arduous battle, but they finally agreed, and it's going to take us some time to get there, but we're going to get there. We're proposing, they have required us to do a tunnel in downtown Hartford starting in 2040. We are now proposing, now that we've got everybody on board, let's not do that. Let's separate the entire city of Hartford. Let's have a new storm pipe on every street. This ain't going to happen over time. It's not going to happen in 20 years. It's not going to happen in 40 years. But the more it happens, the better it will be. And I'm going to give an example of that. On Granby 2000, we finished the project. It was a 3-year project. We finished I believe it was 2018 we finished, and we spent $30 million. And that project was basically to do some separation up in the Granby area. And customers would tell you, I'm going to use names. I hope they don't mind. Mr. and Mrs. Green. I believe they're they're on Granby across from Plainfield Street, I believe. They would tell you, because they said it in the public hearing a couple of weeks ago up in the North End, they don't have a problem with the sewer anymore. They don't have a problem with surcharging in their basement, but they still have a surcharging problem with rainwater, stormwater coming into their home. The railroad acts as a dam. The water that we discharge behind their home, so the water comes down that entire neighborhood, and when it hits that railroad, it has no place to go, and you wind up having 7 feet of water behind the Greens property. All of the separation work, $30 million worth of work that we did for that project, and will be similar to what we do up in the Granby Blue Hills area these coming years. The water that we separate and the water that now is clean stormwater, that water needs to go somewhere. Well, it has to go to a water body, right? And the closest water body, which we're trying to clean up, is the North Branch of the Park River. The problem is the North Branch of the Park River, as most of you know, is creating flooding in itself, independent of MDC. That's a city problem. That's not an MDC problem. That's a Flood Control Commission problem, not an MDC problem. We're only using that waterway like we use the Connecticut River to discharge our stormwater to. But if the river, let's again use, I love the bathtub analogy, right? If you have a bathtub, and I don't know how much a bathtub holds, but let's say a bathtub holds 150 gallons of water. Can you imagine how much water that bathtub would hold if you put 1.5 feet of sand in it? It would hold less, right? If you tried to put 150 gallons of water in a bathtub with 1 foot of sand in it, the water would overflow onto your floor. And that floor represents your community. It represents your streets, your basements. But the overflow that tub is taking that water and directing it somewhere down to your drain, to your septic system, to your sewer system, that's the only thing that DEEP and EPA were cared about prior to this discussion that we've had over the last 2 months. So they have recognized that we've got to worry about the overflowing from the tub onto your bathroom floor is just as important as the overflow that's going to the North Branch of the Park River, to the Weathersfield Cove, or to the Connecticut River. And
Scott,
I do believe,
Scott, excuse me again. I mean, we are running close to out of time, but I do want to say this, and I was not at the last public meeting that was put together by Bridget Prince and EPA. The only mistake I'm picking up on, and I could be wrong, was that at that last meeting, it was mostly the public giving their issues, and maybe that's the way it was designed. But all of the explanation that you're giving now, unfortunately, I don't think y'all had a meeting with the community this year, designed where the community can exactly tell you what they feel the issues consist of, and then you could get a response. So I don't know if it's going to be, you keep using the word proposed. This is going to be on proposed. Hopefully there will be another meeting proposed by Bridget Prince and a follow-up with EPA, and the community can give what they're dealing with, what they feel needs to be resolved, and then you can give representing MDC, the chairman William DeBella can give your response, instead of them just giving their full explanation, sounding off what they feel is the problem, and then the people walk away not hearing what you are saying today. And Stan, I don't know if you see it the same way, but wouldn't you like?
I think I hear what you're saying, but then you get caught in the meeting causality loop. I think what he is saying is the answer.
Is that okay?
Right, you don't have to be in the same room to come up with the answer. As long as at the end of the day, how does this get fixed? And as Scott has said, over the last 2 months, a whole lot of stuff has happened.
Right.
And the main thing that has happened is that all of the players are sitting at the table.
Right.
Because this is the combined result of a whole lot of what seem to be insignificant failures. If you don't dredge the river, then the water doesn't have anywhere to go except for outside the banks.
Right.
But, people say, well, it's not important. It hasn't rained and whatever the case is. And then they get away from it. People start cutting budgets. The budgets that are used to dredge the river get redirected elsewhere. If you look at this, you can see the anatomy. All right. So if you start letting street pile up with trash because you're trying to bring the attention to the fact that the city doesn't have enough money to pay for certain things. And now you get a rain and the trash doesn't allow water to go through. You dismiss street cleaning, you dismiss leaf pickup. All of these things have an effect. The city is designed as a system, and there's interlocking systems. They all depend on each other working, and failures in one part of the system causes the whole system eventually to collapse, and that's what you're seeing. And so as this stuff becomes more important to some of the key policymakers and people who are responsible for implementing that policy, I think hopefully you'll see some of this stuff start to diminish and dissipate. So I think we don't need to go back to the drawing board to have people articulate the same problems that they've already articulated, just so that they can get an answer from the MDC in a room. I think more than them wanting to hear an answer, they want what the solution is, when's the solution going to be implemented, and how can we move forward.
But the only thing,
that's what I am hearing.
But see, the only thing I'm hearing that I'm not hearing is I'm not hearing the side of the city of Hartford.
Well, the city of Hartford they have some time to give their side.
But up until this point, it sounds like the city of Hartford has been pretty silent on this issue.
It's irrelevant whether they're silent or not, in my never to be humble opinion, because their silence doesn't change anything. They could be vocal. It doesn't matter whether they're vocal or silent. What are they going to do?
But they do have some responsibility.
It's clear that they have responsibility, whether they deny it or not. Yes, the city has responsibility. The question is, what will they do about it?
Well, Scott, let me ask you a question. Are you working with the city of Hartford? Are y'all on the same page, or there's a lot of friction? I mean, let's be honest. What's the current status?
So just to follow up though on the meeting. So I'm not planning to have a meeting with Bridget Prince. That's not what I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the politics of it. I'm here to solve a problem, right? So we've already had a meeting with, I think we've had 3 NRZs in that represent Blue Hills, Granby, and the West End, because that's the first area that we're going to be working on, and we need to do the drainage study for dredging of the river. And so dredging the river is really important, as Stan mentioned, because you need a water body that you can, once we separate, you need to be able to discharge this water to somewhere. And that's what the river's purpose is. And it's part of the Flood Control Commission. The North Branch of the Park River is a component of the Hartford Flood Control Commission, period. That's a fact. So the city has said we don't have the money. So we're trying to help them find money through EPA. EPA has said, and DEEP have said initially, no, we could not use clean water funds to do a dredging of the river, because they look at that as not a CSO issue, a sewer issue, but a stormwater issue. They have recently changed their mind and said that clean water funds could be used. However, we've got to get our 8-member towns, our commissioners, to agree to that, because although DEEP says you can use the money that our customers are paying in on their water bill to pay for dredging the Hartford North Branch of the Park River, we need them to support that, right? Because they're the ones paying for it. But we are going to have meetings. We already had one, I mentioned. We're going to have another meeting before I'm trying to remember the date, March 20th, before mid-April, and even sooner than that. I don't know if it's been scheduled yet, but now we're scheduling a meeting with the public within these same NRZs that we met with, which will be the Blue Hills, Granby areas, so that we can tell them exactly what we're talking about today and exactly what we talked about with the NRZ leaders 3 weeks ago. So we are going to be having meetings, and then we'll be having a large public meeting for everyone in the late April, early May timeframe to really talk about not just Blue Hills, Granby areas, but all the areas that we'll be working on within the next 10 years. So there's a lot of communication that's going to happen. I agree with you. It's a very difficult technical discussion, and I struggle as a CEO and an engineer to really communicate this at a level that people can understand. It's a tough topic, and when you've got entities like ourselves, the state and the city pointing fingers at each other, no one knows who to believe, and I completely understand that. The MDC is not afraid to do its responsibilities. We're just asking for the others that are associated with having a responsibility that they also step up and do the right thing. We will help the city of Hartford. We will do everything we can. If the EPA allows us to use clean water funds and our board approves that, then we will do that. We will do everything I proposed that will make it better for our communities in the short term. There is something the city can do, and they have been doing it, and it's basically helped. They have cleared trees in parts of the North Branch of the Park River already over the last couple of years. And that, as you can imagine, a tree that falls down, it dams the river, and then garbage collects, and then it becomes a dam, and then you have flooding, just like a beaver. A beaver creates, knocks down a bunch of trees and blocks the water flow to go, past a certain point, and it starts to dam up behind the trees. That's exactly what's happening right now. So, sorry, I'm getting phone calls. We want to solve the problem. We need help. We need people to step up and do the right thing. We will do everything we can to help everyone, whether it's DOT, whether it's the city of Hartford, whether it's EPA or state of Connecticut DEEP. We will do what we need to do to do the right thing.
Okay.
But it doesn't help the community and our customers when there's a false sense of security when we simply just blame the MDC.
Right.
Because there's no reason for us to not do it. What reason would we have to not do our responsibility? The EPA, the state of Connecticut could come down on us and they could fine us. They could do whatever they wanted to do to us. The reason why EPA and the state of Connecticut DEEP are not fining MDC is because they know that we are doing our job, and they know whose responsibility it is as it relates to stormwater, rainfall, collection of that rainfall. It's very obvious. But besides that, the state of Connecticut DEEP and EPA want information from the MDC to tell them, what can you do? Help us find a way to start addressing this community issue as quickly as possible. And we are prepared to do that. And we're going to be proposing a number of these items. I'll be sending a letter this week to DEEP and within the next 2 weeks to EPA.
Well, Scott, we're going to have to end it on those notes. I mean, I appreciate you giving up your time this morning to go into this particular topic. I mean, it kind of got away a little bit from what I kind of wanted to talk about with the water and sewage industry, but this clearly outweighed, I felt, the substance matter of a better show.
I thought it was good information myself.
Good information. So it kind of worked out good anyway. I said either the water and sewage industry or the Metropolitan District Commission would be like a combination of our topics. And clearly this was a real important, informative subject matter that you just laid
out. For the record, Jonathan, you asked the question.
Yes, I did, and I got an answer. Exactly. So again, let's try to go positive from this point on. Again, as I told the chairman William DeBella last month, I mean, I don't know if it's necessary, Stan, to bring another person like Bridget Prince or somebody else back on.
I think we're good.
You think we're good now? Okay, so I can leave it at that. Yeah. Would be interesting to hear how the city of Hartford feels, but I can't guarantee I can get Mayor Luke Bronin or someone on. But you are running for mayor, and I do want to get into regional.
Well, we have that discussion at another time.
Another time, okay. All right, Scott. So again, I appreciate you this
Thank
morning,
you.
and I wish you the very best of
Thanks
luck.
for the invite. I really appreciate the invite, and I mean it sincerely. The MDC wants to do the right thing. We will do the right thing. We will make sure that whatever we spend up in the northern part of the city is effective. And we're going to do whatever we have to do to make sure that that happens. And that means holding DEEP accountable, EPA accountable, the city of Hartford accountable, or DOT accountable. We are going to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No doubt about it.
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and joining us and getting us up to speed on what's happening here. So,
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Good interview.
Yes, it was. I mean, he brings a lot to the table. He was real passionate. I can definitely pick that up when we got into the issues of the water and sewage meetings that they had with EPA. You can kind of see he took it to a different level. Then he had a lot more to say beyond the first part of the show when he was talking mostly about the definitions of what MDC does and what the water and sewage industry consists of. I get the vibe this is a real sensitive matter, Stan.
Well, it is sensitive because, of course, I know how I get sensitive when people talk about stuff that affects me, particularly if it's something that is not within my orbit, but I'm taking the heat for. I think one thing that has to absolutely be realized is that the Clean Water Project is meant to keep the water clean, being discharged into the river. That is what the Clean Water Project was about. So it has morphed into many things over the years. But the problem that exists with people's homes are real.
Yes, it is real.
Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Morning Talk.
How do you define evil? Is evil the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they were elected to fight for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate who is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for the constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is Jellison McCauley. I am an independent thinker and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023 in the Democratic Party primary election for mayor for the city of Hartford. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my 5-point plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience. Vote for the name you trust and know. Vote McCauley for mayor.
Hi,
My name's Jellison McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and
Well,
you're
you're
watching
watching
AccessTV.org.
All right, we're back. I love this song. I love this song.
Very good song,
I love this song. Jay Hogarth in the background.
Is he playing like a piano? With
That's a vibraphone.
a vibraphone. I've never even seen that
Yeah,
before. Really.
yeah. Well, you remember xylophone when you were little?
I can't for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I could. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
that's a vibraphone.
yeah, I think I do remember that. The little blue balls that he's hitting. I kind of remember that now.
And it's got keys that you hit, you strike with the little mallets, like the piano. So it's got the piano has little mallets inside of it hitting. Maybe we'll have Professor Hogarth here, and we'll discuss music and maybe get Ronnie back too. Ronnie Song.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a deep conversation on music and the language thereof. Where else can you get this kind of? This is morning talk. This is what we talk about.
It is, and I only get one. I only get one Monday a week, so definitely I try to bring
Monday.
the best.
Yeah. Jonathan would like to be here every day.
Well, it's hard to get a good guest. I mean, I like to talk about things. But I want to have a guest too, but I can't get a guest every day. Not the guest, but to give this information, maybe another show in the future. Who knows? But right now, I'm definitely enjoying and appreciate what I am able to do with your help. Obviously, Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan on McCauley Talk Show. And as I mentioned a couple times, I don't know how you feel. Maybe since you're running for mayor, I think Hartford would be a better city if it was a regionalized city. I know
if it was regionalized.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's a touchy subject.
Well, we had attorney Mark Korber on a couple times, and he's definitely promoting the need to regionalize the city.
I don't think that regionalization would be all that bad. The problem with regionalization is, it's 169 little towns, and nobody wants to give up their sovereignty.
That's the problem, I think.
So, once again, the separation between conversation and action. So it's a great conversation. We could sit on the stage of the Bushnell and have nice lights and good sound quality. And all of the heavy heads could come in there, and the thinkers, and the folk with round glasses and square glasses and ponytails and pointy ears, and they could sit down and talk long and hard, get long pipes and put the pipe tobacco in there, and get intellectual voices and talk about the pros and cons of regionalization. And then 100 years from now, nothing's changed.
Well, it has to be authorized on a state level. It can't be authorized just from a city level.
Well, the states represent the state representatives and your state senators are representatives of the small towns. And they're not going to sit by idly while their little towns are absorbed into one greater Hartford.
Well, I think the key always stands is you take the towns like West Hartford, Bloomfield, Windsor, even the surrounding border towns. They don't have, they have a problem giving up control. I think that's what it really comes down to.
It's not a matter of, it's not just giving up control, it's maintaining a certain lifestyle within the town that the people have come to respect, know, and love. And to suggest that the people of Hartford don't respect, know, and love the lifestyle that they have is like somehow, like we should just throw that away. There's a lot of people enjoy the lifestyle that we have here in Hartford. Why should we give it up? It's not like.
But what are you really giving up, though?
No. Who decides whether or not the lifestyle we have is sufficient? That it needs to be somehow changed? That sounds like colonization. The colonizers come and tell you what you miss and what you need to change to make it like what they want.
Yeah, but see, you gotta understand. Hartford is not. The whole purpose of a regionalized city is to make your city bigger, larger, give yourself more of a stronger downtown presence.
That's for those who believe in a strong downtown. Does Bloomfield have a strong downtown?
No, but it's a town. It's not a city. Every city
some would contain that Hartford is a town whose office park is in the middle. Bloomfield has an office park.
Has an office park.
It's just not downtown. If Bloomfield would move all of its office parks downtown Bloomfield, then Bloomfield would have a
downtown.
Would have a semi-downtown. And our downtown doesn't have offices in it anymore. Those things are being turned into apartments.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm not going to knock it totally, because if it is what it is, if it's moving in that direction. But when you talk about a vibrant city, and I'm not going to try to compare Hartford to other cities, but I'm just saying, businesses, entertainment, recreational, you're trying to make your downtown a destination. You're trying to develop Union train station to be a world-class train stations. Those things don't seem to appear right now.
They don't appear because Hartford is not that city right now. It isn't.
And regionalizing it won't be the fix. Then if you're
the region's already here and it isn't. So you remove the quote unquote borders, you get rid of the false constructs of these artificial borders from which we use to separate, and the people are still here. The same people are here. They're the same people with the same minds, live in the same houses. Whether you call a border the Hartford West Hartford line, get rid of it. We have whole separate communities on other sides of the street in Hartford.
Right.
And there's no hard border there, but everybody knows once you cross this street, you're in a whole nother neighborhood.
Yeah, but I'm talking about having a stronger tax base. That doesn't translate into a higher tax rate, a tax bracket, property tax on homeowners. You can change your whole fiscal structure of your city.
Right. You could also destabilize the homeowners of the homes of those who don't make as much money. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of unintended consequences of some of these good ideas, but they're not being thought out all the way with what are the unintended negative consequences that could come. There are some unintended good consequences, but generally those are never a problem. Right. It's the unintended bad consequences of the decisions that are made right now that are realized in the future. You see some of that with this whole flooding situation here in Harvard. Decisions that were made were not the right ones, but they were the ones of people in charge. And so now everyone else has to suffer those decisions. So everything affects everything. So if we get rid of the borders and we say, okay, we're going to make Hartford, through legislative fiat, Greater Hartford, we just call it GH. It includes East Hartford, West Hartford, Hartford, Windsor, Bloomfield. Why don't we annex while we're at Glastonbury, and Rocky Hill, and make that into a super regional area? And now that we've done that, it gives us access to everyone else's taxes. We have a combined tax base, and that combined tax base can now be used to do what? Build stadiums, highways. Someone is sitting in a room with a grand plan of what they believe the future of the region should be. Meanwhile, all of the actual people who live in the region who don't want this, it's being superimposed on them by some group of folk in a room who, just because they would like to see sports complex and they would like to see this and that and the third. That's not to say that it's bad, but who are they to impose that will on everyone else who is telling you no?
Well, it should be a referendum. Give people the vote. I mean, I don't know if they did it that way in Indianapolis. And I know one time we had a guest from Indianapolis, and he didn't feel it was really benefiting.
It didn't benefit the people of Indianapolis at all.
But they did get, like you mentioned, a professional sports team, which they didn't have, a professional football team. They had the Super Bowl there. They had a state-of-the-art stadium. So I think it's designed to do certain things, particularly when you get into sports, attracting a professional sports team.
Like there's a life
beyond
entertainment. Sports is entertainment. Mm-hmm. It's not a necessity.
No. Well, it is a business, though.
Be that as it may, it doesn't employ people in town. How many people in town are employed by the multi-billion-dollar sports? Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people employed, but how many Hartfordites?
Yeah.
How many Bloomfieldites? How many West Hartfordites or East Hartfordites or Rocky Hillians or whatever you want to call them, or Glastonburyites?
It's not, yeah.
How many of those people are going to now be able to get a job at the new stadium?
It's not going to be a large employer structure, no.
And those things aren't built to create jobs. They're there to provide entertainment. And I'm not against entertainment by any stretch of the imagination. Most of my business is in entertainment. But it's entertainment, Jonathan.
Yeah, but if you have a downtown that's a destination, you can develop other components. Hotels do employ people. I mean, if they're fully occupied and they're, running, you have the Connecticut Convention Center, you have the Marriott Hotel, you have Adrian Landing. So you have some components already of what you would like to have towards us downtown becoming a destination. see, everybody probably don't see the picture the same way. Some people don't care about a professional sports team. I mean, I'm hearing of late the city of Hartford is debating what to do again with the XL Center. They can't seem to attract a professional hockey team back to Hartford because they don't have the arena. So,
well, you had my man was in here. He talked about the hockey team.
Howard Baldwin.
Yeah.
But if you remember what he stated, though, he was not impressed of what he sees in downtown Hartford compared when he left.
Right. So the things, right? That's why I mentioned it. So and you remembered the negative things that he had to say about that. And I think he, in his final analysis, he was saying it's not going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
The lightning that made that what it was is gone.
So you're not really going to have. And maybe you don't see it the same way I mean, you're running for mayor, so obviously you don't see downtown Hartford becoming the vibrant destination that it used to be jam-packed with people.
I see downtown Hartford becoming the vibrant destination for the people who actually live in Hartford.
Does that exist now, you saying?
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But do you see it ever?
No.
Uh-huh.
The opportunity exists.
Uh-huh.
The reality has not been manifest because the people in Hartford that could come downtown and make it vibrant don't, because they're not invited to come downtown.
Right. Well,
there are reasons why West Hartford Center is as vibrant as it is. And it has less to do with people coming from all over the state to downtown West Hartford than it is the cultural nuances that make that kind of thing a reality. There's reasons why.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to compare West Hartford.
You can't compare West Hartford.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of deep cultural nuances. But so if Saturday is your Sabbath and you're not allowed to drive or do any menial labor, but you go out into the community right after the Sabbath, all right, and break bread and shit, there's a whole backdrop to the why things are the way they are, where they are. And you can't just look at something and say, oh, they got that, we should have that too. Well, what supports it?
Yeah.
What supports it is not here. There are other things that will support a vibrant downtown or make downtown more alive. So who is it that wants downtown to be alive? What is their vision for downtown? Why does downtown have to be alive? And why is the only success path to success for a vibrant downtown dependent on people from outside of Hartford? There's a reason why that mindset is there. Why can't downtown be vibrant and alive with people who actually live in Hartford? It can be if that's what you want.
Yeah, but first you got to have something even for the people that live in the city is engaged and want.
Have you ever been downtown on Pratt Street when they have the salsa?
Well, I know though I haven't been for the salsa, but I know
you can't get on the street.
But we can't get caught up into 15 days. I mean, it's one thing to have the St. Patrick's Day parade and salsa.
I'm not talking about St. Patrick's Day parade. I'm talking about festivals and activities, shops, all kinds of things that attract the people who have disposable income that actually live in the city of Hartford. Because the people of the city of Hartford go somewhere and party.
But how often is that taking place, though?
It's as often as the thinkers and policymakers want it to be. How often do we have baseball games?
Well,
how often will there be a skating?
Well, you may have. Well, now baseball games, you may have a design that they play. I don't know, 20 or 30 games. So there's a set schedule for baseball games.
There can be a set schedule for everything that goes on downtown. There's only 12 weekends in the summer. And there's 150 weekends every summer.
I don't want to get into the past because the past is the past.
I'm not getting into the past. Yeah. We don't live in the past. We live in the now and we look to the future.
But I'm saying is on a Monday through Friday basis, the city is not jam-packed. And it used to be jam-packed. And it's not a lot of different new things that's...
Jonathan, there's a reason the city is not jam-packed during the days now. We just came out of a pandemic. All right.
Well, even before
the pandemic, downtown activity was on the decline. If your Etnas and your Phoenixes and your Travelers have world-class restaurants inside the building and make it so the employees don't need to come outside to go eat. Your downtown traffic during the lunchtime is gone.
Yeah.
There are a lot of factors that contribute to this. We are in a whole different state of being right now. People are not going back to the office. The ones that are going back to the office, that's already happened.
Yeah, but Hartford, it was the proposed with not just Adrian Landon, but with downtown North. And I hear that they have a downtown South project around the Bushnell Park. There's some plans to develop this area with housing, redevelop Bushnell Park. So I don't know exactly when that's going to get started.
Okay, so if we're going to redevelop the area, right down the street from me, we're going to put a whole new complex. It's going to be housing. Right? They're putting apartments all downtown in the G Fox building. Well, not G Fox, at the Gold building, 777 Main Street, the Pearl Street, all these buildings going up. They're converting all these buildings into residential things.
Right.
There is no more corporation coming to those buildings because the corporation's capacity to have buildings and office space in there is gone. They've been turned into apartments. So all of the amenities, it'll be for the people who actually live downtown.
Yeah.
Once again, why not make it a destination for the people who live inside the city of Hartford and the surrounding region? There's no reason why Hartford can't be a place where everyone comes, where it is multicultural. We're an international city. We have I'll be safe. We have over 60 ethnic groups. There's more than that. We have more than 60 ethnic groups that live in the city who have those cultures in this city. We don't exploit it or tap into it at all. So there is a way to make downtown thriving. There's a way to make downtown businesses prosperous. If you listen to the people who actually have stores on Pratt Street, they have ways to make the street prosperous. But for some reason, folk ain't listening to them. I'm telling you, Jonathan.
Right.
Hartford's downtown is not Manhattan. You can run through downtown in less than 3 minutes.
Never said that, though. Never said about Manhattan. Never compared it to Boston.
You start talking football teams.
Well, now, there was a plan at one point or some vision to bring a professional football team. We used to have a professional hockey team. You still have the XL Arena, so that arena could still be utilized, whether it's a professional hockey team or just college basketball with the UConn men's and women's. You could still have things happening in that arena.
I guess they could come and play here instead of gamble. That's where they play now, right?
That's what I was saying before.
So what are they going to do with Gamble Arena?
Well, sometimes you do a combination. Because there used to be a time you would play some games.
Perhaps it was ill-fated, the XL Center. Like Constitution Plaza. People make these decisions with these long-term dreams and plans, and I'm not against those by any stretch of imagination. But everything affects everything, and everything doesn't always stay the same.
Well, I agree with that part.
This is New England.
Right.
There's a reason Manhattan and New York grew up to be what they are, as well as Boston. And there's a reason why Hartford has grown and then declined to what it is. And it would be nice if we could go back into the past, but we don't live in the past.
Well, again, regionalism wouldn't be the fix then. I mean, that's what it really would come down. That's what I'm trying to find out. Regionalizing the area.
I think there are good reasons for regionalization, but that is not one of them, in my never to be humble opinion.
It wouldn't translate into a vibrant downtown just because you read. But one thing I can say, Stan, I can't think of too many cities throughout America that has 1 million+ populations that don't have either professional sports teams or a tremendous amount of development, retails, mixed-use developments. I just can't think of any city. Jacksonville, Florida, which is a city that kind of did almost the same thing, consolidating that city and growing it beyond the numbers. Indianapolis, even though how you feel about Indianapolis, they do have the Indianapolis 500. They have a professional. I'm not saying.
I'm going to ask the artificial intelligence a question. Alexa, What is the population of Connecticut?
According to the 2020 U.S. Census, the population of Connecticut is 3.61 million people, which is a 0.9% increase over the 2010 U.S. Census.
Now we got 3 million people here.
3.6.
3.6. And you're proposing to take a third of the state's population and turn this region into a super city.
I suggested, when I talked to Mark Corber, I sent him an email. I said, if not Hartford, Stamford. If you took Fairfield County and you collaborated it, with just Stamford as the main city for Fairfield County, you would have a million plus population people. I think here in the greater Hartford area, if you combine about 8 to 10 other different cities or towns, you would have close to a million populated city as well.
As one town. With this, the population is right here, right now, already. All we're going to do is remove the artificial borders.
All right.
The people aren't going to grow. They're not going to be. We're going to create a region and just call it something. We're not creating. We're not like putting in a desert and dropping a million people there. Their people are already here.
Right, because you can't grow that amount of people in Connecticut. We have not proven that we're going to be a fast growing state to attract amount of people to go towards a lower populated city to a million plus city. We just don't have that influx of people moving in like Florida or Texas.
Right. To me, the only reason for regionalization would be to cut expenses for duplication of services like fire and schools, and all those police, those kinds of things, and superintendents and mayors and city council. You reduce all that, make it a much more efficient region.
Right.
But not so that you can bring in football team and hockey team. Those things can be done right now.
But as a candidate running for mayor, would you rather become a mayor for the city the way it exists now, or would you rather become a mayor of a regionalized larger city?
I would love to be the mayor of Hartford.
Right.
As it is right now.
Okay.
I'm not looking to be the mayor of Metropolitan Hartford.
Okay.
Hartford is a very unique city with great opportunities that just are not being capitalized and realized. And I don't believe that the citizens of Hartford are best served by the current vision for the city. My vision is not new. It's the same it's always been. And Hartford is a beautiful town, and I can understand why certain people would like to be mayor here. I'm one of them.
But wouldn't it make your job, or whoever becomes mayor, easier if you had an expanded tax base? If all of a sudden you can get West Hartford tax base duplicated into your city?
Oh, it's always easier if someone's going to give you money. You could take someone else's money. So the challenge is Hartford right here, right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's work with what we have to make Hartford the greatest city in the world.
Well, that makes sense because you have no options. You don't have no referendum.
Right. I live in the now, Jonathan, not in the world that could be 20 years from now.
Right.
And Hartford's leadership has to live in the now.
I agree with that. It was just something I was thinking about, and not saying it's not even a referendum. It's not even seriously considered towards a referendum. So I'm not going to even, I just wanted to get your views on regionalism again.
For the first time.
Well, again, we had Mark Corber, and he's in favor.
We run out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, our theme music ended. I could cue it back up.
No, if we out of time, out of time. I mean, we don't have to hog. I don't have to hog the whole show and everything. Got a good guest next week. We're going to be in the UK, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. All right, my friends, our time together has come to an end. We will see you here next time. You all have a great rest of your day and do something good for your neighbors. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, again.
Hey, Hartford, Connecticut, I'm talking to you. We gotta get out and vote. Vote for Stan McCauley. It's our time. We gotta rise up and take it back. Vote for Stan McCauley.
Vote for Stan. You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah.
It's more than politics than just what your social covers. And it ain't somewhere written down in bold letters. Don't just take my word for it, do your research. Think of your future, look at your bigger picture. Shooting tie, clean up, unity for the righteous. Plotting on action, hands on access. With a light source vision, door to door knocking. Guerrilla style marketing, brainstorm as a collective. Real neighborhood suggestions. Only we know what it is where we living. To make real life decisions. Move on facts, make it manifest back.
You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah.
Look at your city, stop. Take a look around. Is opportunity flow into your house? Are you working? Wait, can you save some money? And is your neighborhood safe? Or is it a homicide every night?
Jellison. Many of you may know me as the two-time welterweight champion of the world. I'm here to tell you that Democrat J. Stan McCauley, as our next mayor, will fight for you until the last bell. Help me throw a knockout punch. Go out and vote for Stan the man.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I approve this message.